Soo-young Kim teaches English in a high school in Daegu, South Korea. It has been 9 months since she returned to Korea from the United States after 2 years of stay with her two children as a graduate student and temporary single mother. In the meantime, across the Pacific, her husband Bruce remained in Korea, making them a split family. The family agreed that Soo-young took their two children, Esther and David, aged 10 and 6, to the US for the opportunity to be educated there to develop fluency in English. With that decision, they joined a group of Korean wild geese family who wants to raise their young children as multilinguals. Wild goose here refers to the seasonal visits of the goose father to his family abroad, just like Bruce did. Korea is a very small country in East Asia. People say Koreans are homogeneous. They originated from an ethnic group called the Han family, and they are monolinguals, speaking the same language, Hangul, and creating the same speech community. Since its foundation in 24th century BC, Korea had not had any written language until it finally adopted Chinese characters called Hanja in 2nd century BC. Then in 1443, Sejong the Great, the fourth king of Joseon dynasty, invented a unique writing system, Hangul. From then on, Hangul has been a sole language in Korean peninsula as an official language used in everyday lives by Koreans. However, Hanja had been used for so many years that it had already taken deep root in Korean's language uses. We can still see its effect in books, documents, people's names, and street signs. Korea was faced with another linguistic change from the late 1980s. Starting from the 1988 Seoul Olympics, then throughout Kim Young-sam and Kim Dae-jung's more liberal and democratic governments, Korea came to open its door wide open and joined the globalization with more upgraded mobility. With the globalization, what swept Korean society was English fever. English as lingua franca was considered the most needed instrument to get it achieved. People came to admire whatever related to English, and English took its place at the center of the society. This fascination, coupled with families' extreme emphasis on child education and competitive college admission and job market, started to cause a serious side effect called the English hell. People from the early childhood are forced to learn English even though they don't have any needs to speak it in their whole life. Nevertheless, they cannot ignore the fact that English is a social ladder, prerequisite to get ahead, and a target they cannot miss, in spite of a huge burden on household economy and children's well-being. However, Korea falls under the expanding circle, and there is almost no occasion where English is spoken in people's daily lives. That frustration has been driving many Korean families to seek out solutions in English-speaking countries. Not surprisingly, the number of these transnational families are increasing every year. Soo-young Kim arrived in San Antonio, Texas in 2011 with her two children with high ambition and expectations. She started in a TESOL master's program in UTSA. Her two children started in a local public elementary school. At the beginning, they went through lots of hardships, especially communication problems.
The most difficult part was speaking English and dictation. Also, the problem was asking to go to the bathroom and talking with my friends.
Soo-young started to get a tutor to get them on the fast track and help their quick adaptation in American life.
They were very, very quiet, very reserved, and extremely shy, especially David. Esther knew a little bit of English, but it was very broken and not complete sentences, David was not speaking any English at all.
For the 2 years, they lived so much busier than they had in Korea and participated in as many events as they could to get familiar with as many contexts as possible where English is spoken. As time went by, their English improved, and especially the children who did not go far past their critical period for language learning soon reached the stages of code mixing and then code switching.
Went by, through the tutoring, I was able to see a big change in David. He became much more confident in himself. He was more outgoing and just more full of life instead of being very shy and timid and withdrawn. And it was like a different person. And the more we worked, the better he became. And he's a very, very intelligent little boy. So once he gained the confidence in himself that the way he was speaking English was correct, then he began to speak English profusely. But it was so rewarding to see the growth that he had made when he actually, put his mind to it, worked on it, and of course then with the influence of going to American schools, he had to communicate with his peers and in class. So he began with that and with the tutoring, then he began to speak English very fluently.
Now Sooyoung's family is reunited and leading a happy normal life in Korea. Sooyoung as a teacher and the kids back in Korean schools.
At first, when I came back to Korea, I had trouble with catching up with the Korean subjects. So I kept studying harder and caught up with the Korean subjects, and I was also very good at the English classes in school.
Even though it could be viewed as a social privilege, we will definitely give a standing ovation when those kids are standing on top of the world and serve a good purpose with the confidence and problem-solving skills they gained in the 2 years in the US and the happier back in Korea, dealing with new sets of language, culture, and people.